All right. What's up, nerds? Goz Master here with another Magic the Gathering puzzle quest. Today's quest, I'm going to go over my Kamigawa Neon Dynasty wish list. Port from cardboard to MTGPQ Arena. I would love to be able to see these cards directly transferred into Magic as is for Puzzle Quest because, frankly, I think they would do some fun stuff. So I'm going to be spotlighting a few of the cards here. They're in no particular order. They're just what I saw and downloaded as I went through the card list, and it's kind of my review. There's a lot of cards that I would see shaking up the standard meta. Some of these cards, I'm going to go through them here. They're in no particular order. I'm just going to go through them. As always, before we get started here, this video is brought to you today by yours truly, pandering for subscriptions. So as always, my friend, if you would do me a solid, if you'd hit the like, subscribe button, comment, let me know your gamer name, and as always, join our Discord because we have lots of great conversations in there. Supports, decks, challenges, all kinds of fun giveaways and other cool stuff. I do have a challenge, or I have one challenge in the video previously. I'll post a link in here later on, or if somebody would go grab it and post it, that would be fantastic. But just let me know that you're here live or on the replay, comment, and I will be going through these as we go along, my friends. All right, so first things first, a couple of cards here. Brilliant Restoration. This is a 4 white, 3 colorless, so a 7 casting cost sorcery card. Return all artifact and enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. I love return all stuff from yard kind of things. I love Reanimator. So in this case, any enchantments and artifacts specifically are thrown into the graveyard in some form or fashion, and then you just put them all on the board all at once. I don't know that this card itself in paper makes any waves, but in the standard stuff that we have right now for Puzzle Quest and White specifically, there's a lot of powerful supports. Another thing that works really well with this is basically the spell version of Field of Nyx. So Field basically pulls things from the graveyard, any support that you cast. In Legacy, it's basically lockdown, so anything that would stop a person from casting a spell or doing a thing, it stops your opponent from doing that. This could essentially do the same thing on Reiterate. I think this could just do a lot of cool combos, a lot of stuff we could break, be a lot of fun. I'd like to play with it. Here we go. For the next one, Farewell. 2 white, 4 colorless. Choose as a sorcery, choose one or more. So we could do multiple things here. I'm assuming in Puzzle Quest, if it does port over, it would be exile all artifacts, all creatures, all enchantments, all graveyards. I love this card because of Javier of Olenbach. This basically allows us to wipe the board, throw everything into exile, and then use our exile powers to bring creatures back with like a card after this, maybe like a Guardian of Faith that hits the board afterwards, starts pulling creatures back down. And then, of course, once we bounce with Teleportation Circle, we bounce, or we use this with those creatures on board, we bounce, what's his face, Javier, and we get all the things back in addition to that. I think this would be a lot of fun. Plus, it's a board wipe. White needs desperately some board wipe right now. It doesn't have a lot in that way outside of course, Savior of Olenbach, which I think is pretty fantastic. So that would be fun. Lucky Offering. I put this in here, and I don't remember putting this in here for why. It's 1 white, destroy target artifact with mana value 3 or less. You gain 3 life. So this is interesting in that we can destroy a specific artifact. For that price point, white needs some removal, but limiting from value of 3. I'm assuming Puzzle Quest will probably throw something on it like, you know, if anything that costs 9 or less or something like that, which is fine for Moxes, but don't think that's necessarily a great card. Acquisition Octopus, 2 colorless and a blue. Artifact creature equipment Octopus. Whenever Acquisition Octopus or equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So this allows us to go equipped on a creature. It's really a couple things about this that I think is really fantastic. Number one, this is a creature in and of itself. It's a 2/2 critter that hits a board, so it doesn't waste time in your hand if you don't have a creature in play. That's pretty cool. In addition to that, whenever this card or equipped creature deals combat damage to a target player, you draw a card. So it helps with your card draw. It's a creature right away. Fantastic. But if I have this card on the board, I'm assuming the way that Oktagon is going to handle this is I have another creature on the board. I can trigger its ability somehow. Maybe it's an activated gem, or maybe it's something of that nature that I will be able to reassign it to one of my other creatures. Maybe when it dies, I'm not sure how they're going to work the mechanic. If it's an activated gem, that makes it a little more complicated. If it's like a check with every type of turn, like every turn it checks with you to see if it's something you want to do, and you can pay the mana cost, maybe drain some mana from hand and reacquire it. That would get annoying after a while because you have all these checks and balances. However, I don't know. I think this is kind of cool. This allows us the opportunity to be able to go draw cards, and then if this creature's on the board, we can have more than 4 creatures in our build, with this guy being something we're basically going back to equip, but with the Ikoria creatures, mutate. We actually have another function for mutate. So I'm actually really excited over this mechanic in general and how they handle it. So we'll see how that goes. Whoops. Mistake. All right, let's go here. We're going to go back another one. Invoke the Winds. So I love blue control, baby. So it is 1 colorless and 4 blue. Gain control of target artifact or creature. Untap it. Not till end of, not as long as, permanently. So I dig taking other people's creatures. It looks like this might be fairly decent for casting. In Paper Magic, 4 blue, I mean, you got to play a mono blue deal for the most part, but that looks fun, and I would find it very interesting to go do this. Again, if you guys are just joining me here, comment, let me know you're live with me, and state what's going on with you and that you're seeing this. If you see any of these cards here that you like, let me know. So Jin Cataxius Progress Tyrant, 5 colorless, 2 blue, legendary creature. He's a praetor. Whenever you cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for that copy. This ability triggers only once each turn. So essentially the way I would see this working, I don't know if Oktagon is going to give us this bad boy as is, but let me finish reading it. Whenever an opponent casts an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, counter that spell. This ability triggers only once each turn. So I'm assuming we may do some bounce. Like if they cast a spell, we bounce a spell. That would be brutal if they gave that to us. That would be fantastic. With a 5/5 body and let's say it costs 18 to 20 to cast. That would be pretty epic. But that first ability is pretty powerful. When you cast anything, an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, copy those things and you get to choose new targets for them. So I'm assuming if we cast it, if it gets ported over, we cast a spell, whatever it is, we get a copy in our hand, gains full mana, we get to cast that thing again. They may disable it to the beginning of next turn, whatever, or they'll add the line of if it's not a copy, duplicated, or whatever. But in this one, it's only once per turn, so even if you're casting spells on your opponent's turn, right? So whenever you cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, if you do that on their turn, instants count, so you could be doubling up what you're doing. That's a lot of cool. So closing statement, for example, I could use closing statement to destroy one of their creatures, but then I've got another closing statement sitting in hand ready to go for the next turn, etc., etc., etc. I think this would be absolutely broken if they poured it over this way. Here's to hoping they don't mess it up. Kyrie, the Swirling Sky, 4 colorless and 2 blue. Legendary creature, dragon spirit, flying ward 3, so it's got the ward ability. When Kyrie, the Swirling Sky, dies, choose 1. Return any number of target non-land permanents with a total mana value of 6 or less to their owner's hands. So we get to kind of wipe the board. Great against tokens, especially if we're running a sacrifice deck. So it might be 9 or 12 or less or something like that. Mill 6 cards, then return up to 2 instant and or sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand. So ways to feed our yard with this creature when it dies. If these abilities poured over to PQ, I would use this card to get it on the board, sack it, do the things, wipe the board, fill my yard, bring a couple of my spell cards back to hand, and reanimate or something of that nature. I would love something like this inside of PQ. I think it would be pretty fun. The Reality Chip, colorless and a blue. So legendary artifact creature equipment jellyfish. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. I don't know how that would play inside of PQ, but as long as the Reality Chip is attached to a creature, so it's an equipment, you may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. Reconfigure 3. So I would love for us to have the ability to cast cards from the top of our deck. I know that we've had some abilities that way, that when we cast a spell, we draw a card or we exile a card or something like that in the past. They've been kind of clunky, but they're fun. And I would like to see us have a return to silly, broken, fun stuff, because, you know, we don't have enough of it, at least before rotation happens. I don't know how this would play, but I've always loved being able to play cards off the top of your deck in Paper Magic. I would love for us to see that kind of thing make its way into PQ, because it gives us unlimited hand size, essentially, and if we've got the mana to do it, especially in Legacy with Omniscience, like that needs to get more powerful, right? It would be pretty fun. I think it would be a neat thing to see. All right, so one of our first Planeswalkers we're going to see here, Tezra, Betrayer of the Flesh. It's 4 mana, basically 2 colorless, 2 blue. Legendary Planeswalker Tezra. The first activated ability of an artifact you activate each turn costs 2 less to activate. So that's kind of cool. It would impact, if that ported over, it would give impact to all of our artifact cards having less cost for something. Let's say, I don't know how it would play, but that would be interesting. It's most likely would give us the ability to cost less to cast the cards to get them on the board. But his abilities are what's interesting. +1, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard an artifact card. So that gives some artifact synergy. Also gives us some creature dump into the yard. I'd love that if that would part over. That would be a really strong first ability. -2, target artifact becomes an artifact creature. If it isn't a vehicle, it has a base power and toughness of 4/4. I'm assuming they're not going to let us turn our artifacts into creatures on the board. That would be kind of cool because it would be brand new for us. But I'm thinking what they'll do is allow us to create a 4/4 vehicle on the board in some instance and maybe sacrifice a... oh no, where did I go? I lost where we were. Lose some type of artifact. Maybe we sack an artifact or something like that to make it work. Not sure how that would play, but I'm assuming it's going to do something like that. Oh my gosh, where am I? I am here. I'm at Tezra. I got a lot of cards to cover. I'm probably not going to get through them all. We're going to cover these in a couple different batches. Maybe this is part 1. And then his third ability, you get an emblem with whenever an artifact you control becomes tapped to draw a card. I would think something of when you play a card, you draw a card, or next card is free, something of that nature. I'm not sure how they're going to get that to port over, but that would be a lot of fun to see it done. Blade of the Oni, 1 colorless and a black. It's an equipment and it's a demon at the same time. Very interesting. Demons have some play in some legacy stuff where I don't think we have enough demon synergy in the past. I think this would be interesting to see how it works. But Menace. Equipped creature has base power and toughness 5/5, has Menace, and is a black demon in addition to its other colors and types. You know what I'm going to say here. Base power and toughness is 5/5. So we're going to take a stackable creature like a token and give it a 5/5. It's a demon in addition to its other colors and types, and then we can reconfigure it. And it's a creature all on of its own in addition to that. So fascinating, very fascinating. Like, right, Bernard? I think that would be really cool if we get to have this in some capacity. It's no way is it going to cost like 6, which would be the equivalent to this in Paper Magic. It'd probably cost like 15 or whatever it is, or 12, whatever it is with Mox Jet. This would be a fun thing to get out and make all of our tokens bigger and badder. I would really love to play with something like that. Gravelighter, 2 colorless and a black. It's a spirit. Flying. When Gravelighter enters the battlefield, draw a card. If a creature died this turn, otherwise each player sacrifices a creature. So, as I'm rereading this, I'm realizing there's a limitation to this. When Gravelighter enters the battlefield, draw a card. If a creature died this turn. If they didn't, otherwise each player sacrifices a creature. I was thinking there may be some synergy here with Shadowed Boughs for Nissa. However, as I look at it now, it won't play that way. This allows you to do it one turn, one time. So if a creature died, then you draw a card. If you didn't have a creature die, each player sacrifices a creature. That's kind of cool in Paper Magic. I wonder if there would be some synergy. It depends on how they would port it over too. It's got its self-limiting, so it's not going to just give you a bunch of endless cards. Okay, it is what it is. I think it's kind of cool. We'll go from there. Hidetsugu Devouring Chaos. 3 colorless and a black. Legendary creature, ogre demon. Black, sacrifice a creature, scry 2. I love me some snag and sack, so I'm hopeful that I'll be able to do something, maybe a triggered. I hope it's not a improved gem or some type of activated gem on the board. Destroy it, then you get to sack some others. I hope it's an optional one, because I'd like a creature I could take from their side of the board, put it on mine, and then sack it with this creature. Exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. When you exile a non-land card this way, Devouring Chaos deals damage equal to the exiled card's mana value to any target. So this would probably be an activated gem ability. Trigger it, and then I get to go take that and throw a card into the exile, deal damage. But this with Savior or Guardian of Faith, this is another way of putting cards into the exile, and especially if it's a creature, I get to bring it down to the board. I think there'll be some synergy with this. That should be pretty fun. Invoke Despair. 1 colorless and 4 black. I'm noticing a theme. They're going to have several of these for each color, or 1 for each color, rather. It's a sorcery card. Target opponent sacrifices a creature. If they can't, they lose 2 life, and you draw a card. Then repeat this process for an enchantment and a planeswalker. So this would be neat if we're able to use this to be able to, in black, to help control the board a little bit better, more than just one-for-one removal. One-for-one removal, and the best thing about ritual or what was it? The one that destroyed all your opponent's creatures, the from Ikoria. It just was devastating. You wipe out their entire board, all your creatures get to stay, and you get to keep going. This would be something similar to that. Maybe it destroys 1/1 and 1. That's fine. I would totally take this. It's not as flexible as the other card. Someone type it in there for me. I can't remember. Bernard, do you know what card I'm talking about? What is it? It's the multicolor card that destroys all the stuff. But it's a close in black to do 3 if it transfers over. I would love to see that it has these abilities. They either do each one of these 3 things or they lose 2 life. That way it's not wasted. You're still killing them for 2 life or taking damage to them or 5 damage or whatever it would be. Something significant I'd like to see. That'd be pretty fun. All right, Mukatai Soulripper. It's a 2 mana, 1 black, 1 colorless vehicle. Whenever Mukatai Soulripper attacks, you may sacrifice another creature or artifact or creature. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on Mukatai Soulripper, and it gains menace until end of turn. This would go great in a snag and sack deck. I want to take their creature, put it on my side of the board, sacrifice it to this creature because it's a may ability, not a must ability, and then we go attack and swing for big bones. I like that. I think there's not enough of that, and I want more of it, so thank you very much, Mukatai Soulripper, please, and thank you. Nashi, Moon Sage's Cyan. It's basically, what is this, Splinter. 1 colorless, 2 black, legendary creature, Rat Ninja. Uda, Ninjutsu. So Ninjutsu's back. I think it's going to be played in the same way. The mechanics should work the same way as it has before. Return an unblocked attacker you control to hand. Put this card onto the battlefield from your hand, tapped and attacking. So in other words, I have another creature attacking. I'm able to take it out. We do that now with rogues, where if that rogue's attacking, or another rogue's attacking, I can swap it out from my hand to that. So ninjutsu should work just the same way. Very cool to go get a cheap, hasty creature on the board, ninja that has ninjutsu, or ways of imparting ninjutsu on something, and then when it attacks, I'm able to put a bigger ninja creature on the board, attacking and going. Whenever Nashi's Moonsage Cyan deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of each player's library. Until end of turn, you may play one of those cards. If you cast the spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. I hope we get to use life to cast spells. This would be so awesome. There's so much synergy we'd be able to use on some of these other cards from other sets, even in Legacy. That would be a lot of fun, and I don't know that we have that. Hey, guys, just popping in. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Will. I appreciate it. You guys let me know if you guys are here live, chime in, or if you're listening to the recording, the replay, definitely let me know. Comment in the comment section as well. Appreciate you guys. Let's see. What else we have here? I'm going to try to buzz through. I got a few more minutes here, about 6 more minutes, and I got a jet. Atsushi the Blazing Sky. So this is a 2 red, 2 colorless, legendary creature, Dragon Spirit. Flying Trample. When Atsushi the Blazing Sky dies, choose one. Exile the top cards of your library until end of turn. Your next card, until the end of your next turn, rather, you may play those cards. I would like to see us be able to choose and have one for free and use it when this creature dies. Again, a snag and sack deck. This becomes another feeder for it. Create 3 treasure tokens. I don't want treasure tokens. Of course, I want to exile the top 2 cards of your library until end of turn. Next turn, you may play those cards. Yada yada. I think that would be really, really powerful. I love that. Plus, it's a 4/4 body. So if this came in for 12 to 15, and had those other abilities, plus obviously we're going to be using prismatic bridge rather. That's a no-brainer. Get this guy on the board, get him to sack somehow, and then we wind up going and doing some more damage. I would love to see that. Lots of synergy. Explosive Singularity. 8 colorless, 2 red sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may tap any number of untapped creatures you control. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature tapped this way. Explosive Singularity deals 10 damage to any target. So what's got me excited about this isn't the cost, isn't the additional cost to play, but it's the fact that we're going to get, if this comes to PQ, we have something that'll do pretty significant damage at 10 points of damage. Whack. I can use it to go face, I can go creature, whatever it is. I hope they port this over fairly well. It's a mythic masterpiece, or it's a mythic, so it would be very interesting to see how this ports over, and I don't understand how they'd actually get it to do the additional costs. Maybe you sacrifice a creature or something like that. I'm not sure. We shall see. Invoke Calamity. 1 colorless and 4 red. instant. You may cast up to 2 instant and or sorcery spells with total mana value 6 or less from your graveyard and or hand without paying their mana cost. If those spells would be put into your graveyard, exile them instead. Exile Invoke Calamity. Full mana. I'm assuming this is going to be something that gives you full mana under a certain mana cost. I hope it does multiples if it's X or less, or I hope it gives you unlimited casting cost for one card so that we can use this to cheat out some of our other red stuff. I love cards like this. I think they work really, really well with synergy from other cards that will help us get cards at a discount or get cards for free. Monolith or Pyromancer's Goggles is another one. Basically gives us this card to do free. And is it, you may cast up to 2 instant or sorcery spells. So it's not permanents. They have to be spells. So we'll see. I like that. We'll see what it does. Lizard Blades. This is essentially the new, the equipment that does double damage. So you get double strike. Equipped creature has double strike, reconfigure. It's cheap. It's inexpensive. It's cheap to attach. So it just gives double strike to a creature. I hope it does a little bit more than this. But as is, it's kind of a fun card to play with. March of Reckless Joy. This is an unlimited red spell instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may exile any number of red cards from your hand. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each card exiled this way. Exile the top X cards of your library. You may play up to 2 of those cards until the end of your next turn. That doesn't mean you get them for free. It just means you get to cast them from your exile zone, which would be pretty fun. Maybe you're bringing back an exile spell to hand. It gets a certain amount of mana. Or in this case, you're getting some discounts. It's probably going to have stored mana that you're able to do, maybe up to 10 or 15. Hopefully something significant, since it is a rare. It's probably going to be lighter than that, but we'll see. I'd be curious to see how they handle this mechanic. Ogrehead Helm. This one's funny. 2. 1 red, 1 colorless. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. Whenever Ogrehead Helm or equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it. If you do, discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. So this is a nice little way of getting some hasty creatures on the board. We haven't seen mono red aggro really in a minute. We have some tokens that do that, but this might be a fun thing to do to allow us to sacrifice a creature. We could use this to put on. If I'm snagging their creature, put it on theirs, I could sack it. I dump my hand, I draw 3 cards, and it keeps my hand reloaded while I'm actually taking their creatures out. Fun little thing that may have some synergy with it. We'll see. Scrap Welder. This is 2 colorless and a red. It's a Goblin Artificer. Sacrifice an artifact with mana value X. Return target artifact card with mana value less than X from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste until end of turn. So if it's a creature, it has haste, and you can do stuff with it. This will be interesting in a sacrifice reanimator build. This could have some synergy between 2. I don't see the rest of these, but maybe we'll have to. That we can do this in a loop. We can sacrifice a card. What's up, Nalthazar? How are you, brother? It's good to see you, man. We sacrifice a creature or a card. It goes to the yard. Something happens. Case in point, this is with artifacts, but we have several supports right now that do their thing once they're destroyed. So if we have an artifact that we can destroy that does something on destruction, that would be interesting. I haven't seen anything yet or haven't had a chance to play with it, but I think it would be really fun to see if there's some synergy that Oktagon can play with. And it's kind of a mechanic or a playthrough that we really don't have enough of. We do a little bit of it, but I think having some synergy between, hey, destroy this thing and get a better thing, and then that thing comes back and you can destroy that thing and get a better thing, I think that would be fun to build around and give us some new play styles to mess with. Nalthazar says, just saw this and I'm stopping in for a second before picking up my son from school. Have fun. Thanks, brother. I appreciate you. So far, so good. Thanks. I love to see this. It's one of the things I've wanted to do for a minute, but never really had time. And I had a minute in between meetings. I've got to get to another one here in a second now. But it'll be good. Invoke the Ancients. Treasure tokens would be good for that last card, right, Nalthazar? So we could sacrifice a treasure and get something back. Gold tokens, that kind of thing. Those are all artifacts, but it's also X value. So if it's casting cost or whatever it is, maybe it's shields on it. That's something they could do. I don't know. I think it would be fun, though. I think it would be some synergy that we could play with. I hope, at least. And what I'm looking for, some new ways to play the game, really. I'd like to see them not just introduce new mechanics, but new synergies with cards that we haven't really done before. New play styles to create a broader appeal for folks to do stuff. I love snag and sec. I love taking their stuff and sacrificing it and getting bonuses from it. So that's a play style that's not really supported that well outside of Angrath, the Flame Chained. But he's limited because he can only take creatures up to a certain level of power, right? Okay, cool. We'll see. But Invoke the Ancients. 1 colorless and 4 green. Create 2 4/5 green spirit creature tokens. For each of them, put your choice of a vigilant counter or reach counter or a trample counter on it. This is interesting in that it's tokens, and this will go well in cycle decks, or loop decks, so that we can go build a mass army. If we're not going to go build if we're not going to build out elementals with the new seed mechanics, which are absolutely ridiculous, this would be a second tier token ability thing that allows all green walkers to be able to do some token doing instead of having to rely on Nissa, World Waker, or a Johnny, that kind of stuff, invigorate leadership, that kind of thing. So interesting and excited to play with it. Kami of Transients. This is our first Kami in the list here. So it's 1 colorless and a green. It's a spirit trample. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, put a 1/1 counter on Kami of Transients. So that's cast. I hope it's just summon when it ports over. But at the beginning of each end step, if an enchantment was put into your graveyard from the battlefield this turn, you may return Kami of Transients from your graveyard to your hand. Interesting, fun, a nice little way to Voltron some stuff up. I just think that, again, we're going back to the enchantment play, so we're going to have a lot of enchantments in this set that we can mess with, and I think that'll be fun. Kodama of the West Tree. 2 colorless of green, legendary creature spirit, reach, modified creatures you control have trample. That's cool. So it gives other creatures you've mutated, essentially, or modified, the ability to trample, which is big, especially when we're chump blocking with some cards like Faithbound Judge, right? He's got a 4/4 body, but he's stopping anything that doesn't have trample and eventually chipping away at them until they get killed. This helps those creatures get bigger. In addition to that, also gives them trample to roll over him as they go. What's up, Michael? What's up? What's ish? What's this ish? That's her name. That's hilarious. Whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Dare they give us the ability that when these creatures attack and do damage, we can put a land card from our library onto the field? And if yes, then will we not all be abusing the Vow lands, the Vow and the Midnight Hunt ones, those mana gain lands when they hit the board? I will be abusing that, and I'm hopeful that they allow me the opportunity to do that, because that would be a lot of fun. Cur the Boundless Sky, Flying Death Touch, Dragon Spirit, legendary creature. It's 3 colorless, 2 green. When Kura the Boundless Sky dies, choose one. Search your library for up to 3 land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle. Create an XX green spirit creature token where X is the number of lands you control. So you get to choose one. I definitely would choose the first, and hopefully they get some mana, but we'll see. Or use this in combination with the other side of... I can't remember his name, but he basically takes all the land cards in hand and puts them on the battlefield. I think that's great. March of Burgeoning Life. X and 1 green. Instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you may exile any number of green cards, yada yada. This spell costs yada yada to cast. Choose target creature with mana value less than X. Search your library for a creature card with the same name as that creature. Put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. It doesn't have to be your creature. It can be your opponent's creature. And it allows you to do some shenanigans if you want to. Essentially, you're still casting the creature. You're just fetching. You don't have to have it in hand to get it on the board, which is interesting. So I'm not sure this is going to be good if they port it over this way. I think that it gives us another opportunity to play like Turn Timber or some of the others we've had historically that allow us to go fetch a creature from your yard, put it on the battlefield direct, or into hand with full mana. We will see. This is saying battlefield, but I'd be interested to see what that works. Shigeki Jukai Visionary. 1 and 2, colorless and a green. It's a snake druid. 1 and a green, and tap. Return this guy to its owner's hand. Reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. Put the rest into your graveyard. So, activated gem, I'm assuming. Trigger it. This guy comes back to hand. Look at our top 4 cards. Put a land card onto the board. Kill the rest. So, graveyard feed. Good. Channel, XX 2 green, discard Shigeki, return X target non-legendary cards from your graveyard to your hand. If it allowed us the ability to do this from graveyard to battlefield, that would be insane. But even this, bringing creatures back to hand, or anything, non-legendary cards from your graveyard to your hand, that's kind of fun too. I think this would be a fun card to mess with. Redonk in-game. I was pushing a Pauper Trellisara deck on you 6 months ago. Well, you got to do it again, man, so I could go play it again, right? Because I've been busy. Springleaf Avenger, good to have you here, dude. Appreciate you, man. Springleaf Avenger, 3 colorless and 2 green. I think this is got to be the last one. Ninjutsu, 3 and 1. Whenever Springleaf Avenger deals combat damage to a player, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, I just think the ninjutsu, getting something on the board that's a 6/5 is pretty swag. In this case, I'm not sure how they're going to play ninjutsu. I don't think it's going to be as easy as the rogue, where any rogue that's attacking will allow it to go. They're probably going to have some other condition, maybe drain mana from hand or something like that, which would still be pretty cool, because this guy's pretty beefy to go put a weenie on the board that attacks, does damage, or that's attacking, and then I could swap it out with a 6/5. Also, I wonder if we could trigger it after blockers have been announced. That would actually be kind of cool. Well, no, I guess blockers wouldn't be announced, right? Thinking of two different things. I don't know. It would be fun. All right, last one. Weaver of Harmony. 1 and a green enchantment creature, Snake Druid. Other enchantment creatures you control get +1/+1. So we're going back to enchantment creatures, which is a big deal. Copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an enchantment source. You may choose new targets for that copy. I don't know how they're going to do this. Most likely an activated gem. If they do, then essentially, or maybe every time you're casting a new enchantment or a new enchantment is triggered, maybe first per turn, something like that. That would be kind of cool for them to be able to allow us to trigger an enchantment ability twice or a trigger twice. I don't know how they would do that. But boy, would that be fun. Could you imagine having triggered effects like life gain or something like that, or discard abilities or something that does like sacrifice a creature or does damage to a creature, you get to double it up, essentially with something like this? That would be pretty fun. All right, so we're going to end it there. I hope that you enjoyed this, guys. Let me know your feedback. Is this something you like? Do you think this is valuable? Would you like to see more of these? If so, this is part 1 of the rest of the series. There's some other cards that I'm really excited to show you, some blue stuff that's coming that would be insane. And the bottom line is this, my friends. I would really like to see some of these new play styles shift from not just mechanics, but actual play styles in the way the cards work well with each other. Not anchored to a planeswalker, not anchored to a mechanic, but card synergy that works well together that gives us some alternate ways to play. Again, another example is Snag and Sack. I take their creature and then I sacrifice it. I get benefit out of it. That's a way I'm able to control the board. It's another form of control. Angrith has it built in, but it's limited. And I'd like to see us be able to have more new things like that. For example, in this, with enchantments, other enchantments you have, especially enchantment creatures, actually they get +1/+1. If that's the case, then we could build decks around that play style that's not just limited to Kamigawa, but are also able to synergize with other enchantments that we have. It's unfortunate that Theros. Theros is out of standard, so we're not going to have that synergy. However, when it hits Legacy, we're going to have some of that fun stuff that we can do with these things that could allow us to do some really silly, fun combos and be able to show our might. That said, my friends, I appreciate you could have been anywhere in the world for the last, 20 minutes plus. You chose to spend that time with me here. It is appreciated. Comment, like, subscribe. Definitely let me know. And if you're watching this on the replay, definitely comment below and let me know you're part of my nerd herd. Get into the Discord. And let me know that you're there in the party, and I will welcome you with open nerdish arms. Geek, nerd. And until our next quest, my friends,